Picture this. You were out playing a sport, but you slip and fall and fracture your leg. You can't walk on it. It's swollen and painful. You're obviously in need of treatment, an x-ray, maybe a cast. So you ask for help. But instead you're told to stop making it up. Your leg is just fine. To stop feeling sorry for yourself and to just toughen up. You're denied treatment, medication, insurance coverage, but most importantly, the love and support of your friends and family, who seem to not even believe you, let alone listen. Now, can you actually see that happening in real life? Of course not, except it does happen, but not with a broken leg, but to those suffering with mental illness. Now, let's say you finally get through to someone and you get your cast, and now people can actually see that there's something wrong. Except now they don't just ignore you, let alone help you up the stairs. They run from you, they dread your company, they marginalize you. So no, mental illness is nothing like a broken leg. Stigma is when someone views you in a negative way due to a distinguishing characteristic or a personal trait that is seen as or actually is a disadvantage or a negative stereotype. In other words, stigma is shame. It worsens the already unbearable suffering with those with mental illness. There are fewer opportunities for work, social activities, or school. They become more reluctant to seek help. They become more susceptible to physical violence, bullying, and harassment. Yet the most damaging part is the reinforced belief that you can never succeed at certain challenges, or you can never improve your situation. But where does all this come from? Misinformation, lack of education, and the negative portrayal in literature, cinematography, and the media. For example, in many major films and TV shows, the villain often has a mental illness that somehow explains their violent behavior. When in reality, statistics show that those with mental illness are equally as, if not less likely, to commit a violent crime than anybody else. The truth is, mental illness is a crowd puller, used just like supernatural monsters, something that is undiscovered and obscure. It increases revenue while exploiting the reality of mental illness and poisoning the lives of those affected by it. Split, a major film released in 2017 about a man with dissociative identity disorder who kidnaps young girls, is a cannibal, and turns into a monster. The film was followed by detrimental consequences to the DID community. Mental illness doesn't create monsters. Actually, many of the people we admire today suffered from it, like Nikola Tesla, Charles Darwin, Charles Dickens, Isaac Newton, and so many more of those who shaped the world as we know it today. So really, it's quite the opposite of monstrosity. However, when it's not villainization, it's romanticism. Another very popular show, 13 Reasons Why, a Netflix original targeted at a young, impressionable audience, where a young girl commits suicide. The results were lethal. Studies show that teens thought that mental illness was a way to gain attention, and suicide rates among children of ages 10 to 17 rose by 28.9% in April of 2017, the month after the show was released. So no, this is not progress. This is regression. There are much better ways of portraying mental illness in entertainment media. Don't get me wrong, I think humor can be incredibly therapeutic. A good, authentic laugh during a bout of depression can feel like a deep breath 100 feet underwater. It feels hopeful. It reminds us that existing can be fun. Now, that being said, there's a difference between laughing about mental health together and laughing at someone else's expense. There's a difference between jokes that bring light to the judgment about mental illness and jokes that further perpetrate the negative stereotypes and stigma. For example, using others' mental health diagnosis in a derogatory way to mimic or tease them, or describing someone's behavior as a mental illness in a disparaging way when it is not necessary and regardless whether they have one or not. This can make people feel embarrassed and humiliated and much less likely to seek help. It is also very unhelpful to talk about mental illness too lightly, like calling an off-day depression or changing your mind bipolar disorder. This makes it way harder for people actually suffering with these disorders to open up to someone and be taken seriously, because it becomes something that people just say these days. Many mental health disorders start in childhood or adolescence, the most fundamental stages of one's development. Therefore, it is vital that the adults surrounding these children are very knowledgeable in mental health, especially in not stigmatizing and educating them. We would all like to believe that kids now can feel accepted by the adults in their lives. But imagine hearing this from someone you trust. What's all this depression and anxiety business? All this nonsense is just an excuse for your laziness. Just get over yourself. Words like these can make kids feel blamed and shamed for a disorder that they cannot control. They can even feel unsafe or afraid. And those who may later discover that they're struggling won't seek help due to a preconceived notion fed to them by the adults. Now, unfortunately, for some of us, this wouldn't be so hard to imagine. So, what can we do? We as a society must work to change this, regardless of you or someone you know has been affected by it, or even if you don't have any connection to it at all. Because the truth is, this could happen to any one of us at any time. So, talk openly about mental health. Educate yourself and others. Be honest about treatment. Encourage equality between physical and mental illness. Choose empowerment over shame. Let the media know when they're being stigmatizing. And don't harbor self-stigma. But most importantly, think. And think critically before you choose to believe or follow a societal prejudice.